Good day, peoples. I'm Pedro Mota, and today we're going to talk about how you already have the adventure motorcycle that you need for that long trip wherever you're going, down a continent or halfway around the world, or maybe all around the world. You probably already have the ultimate adventure bike for that trip. So, what are you still doing here? Go on your adventure. That was it. That's all I wanted to say. Still here, eh? Well, I might as well explain then. By the way, I hope everybody's doing awesome. Hopefully been getting some riding in and whatnot. Myself, I got sick since the last video, and the flu's been going around, and the internet says I've got laryngitis, and I almost lost my voice, and it's been coming back since yesterday, but still so bear with me. Oh, and if you're still in the World Cup, congratulations. Hang in there, and let's see how far we can get. North Americans be like, well, what? So, chances are that if you have a motorcycle, then you already have an adventure bike to take on an awesome long journey. Because sure, a motorcycle is an important part of the trip. It's absolutely essential. But at the end of the day, it's simply a means to an end. More important is your intention. What do you want from this experience, and where do you want to go? We get bombarded online and in magazines and on TV about the perfect adventure bike, the bike that's perfect for your trip, and all the items that you need to go on a long adventure. And a lot of these advertisements try to convey a certain feeling and emotion, but you gotta remember where they got that emotion from in the first place. This was research into potential markets that was done to figure out how people tick, but that emotion, that feeling that you're trying to convey, now that's what it's all about. That has been there since the dawn of man, before we even knew how to make combustion engines. It's that experience of the wanderer, the traveler, crossing bounds, crossing borders, finding new roads, sometimes even creating new roads. It's the unknown experiences that lie ahead of you and roughing it out and figuring it all out on your own. It's something that's deep inside of us. And we've been living in an awesome world for a while now where we can experience all of that on two wheels. Personally, I think that is what it's all about. Because people have been traveling on motorcycles since the early 20th century. If you go to Asia, you see people on 100cc, 120, 25cc motorcycles riding up mountains, through the snow, in the mud, in the jungle, doing everything with it. Just look at motocross and the Dakar rally and the bikes that they use nowadays, and compare those to the dirt bikes from the 60s and the 70s, and it's a world of difference. There have been badass people out there doing badass shit on motorbikes for a long time now. And if you would look at their bikes, you think, hey, wait a second, that's not the perfect bike for that. But if you look at the intent of that person, that was all he needed. So it's more about what you want to do with it than what you got. People have been riding around the world on dual sports, dirt bikes, choppers, naked bikes, gold wings, super bikes, postie bikes, scooters. So think to yourself, what do I have and what do I want, and how big is that disparity? Can I afford to close that gap, and do you want to close that gap? Look at what you already have. I think it comes down to a bike-centered approach versus a trip-centered approach. Long-term motorcycle travel, even if you keep your budget tight, is going to be expensive. And how realistic is the high cost of that kind of travel for most people? Because most people aren't wealthy, and a trip like this will cost you everything that you have, and probably more to boot. If your main focus is to get that perfect motorcycle, then it's probably going to cost you a big chunk of your budget already. Hell, it can cost you all of your budget, and I speak from experience there. So already having a motorcycle is better than having none, and is a great starting point. By the way, let us know in the comments if you're planning a big trip yourself, and which bike are you bringing along for the ride, or what would be your dream motorcycle to ride around the world. But of course, every motorcycle is different and won't be suited perfectly for everything that you want to do on your ride, and there will be pros and cons to certain motorcycles. There will be trade-offs that you have to consider, and I think these are the main ones. First of all, engine capacity. With a smaller engine, you're sometimes going to have trouble overtaking or making time when you really need to. And for sure, sometimes it's great to have that extra speed when you're going up the mountain, or when you're hitting the twisties and you're just going from one bend into the other, and you just got that awesome speed to connect them. Though you gotta remember that most of the time time, you'll be doing about 100 kilometers an hour, somewhere between 90 and 110 kilometers an hour. That's your typical speed. How much would that be in miles? Is that 60 miles an hour? Trying to help out the folks north on the continent here. And also, small engines can be more economical and use less fuel. And trust me on that one, you are going to spend a lot of money on fuel. And the smaller engines tend to be lighter than the bigger engines, and this is what separates the one cylinders from the two or multi-cylinder motorcycles. It can make a big difference in weight, because that's another important factor. Lighter motorcycles are obviously easier to pick up than heavier motorcycles, and lighter motorcycles tend to be easier to handle off-road, especially in the mud. Also, a heavier motorcycle will cost you more energy if you don't really know how to handle it on tough terrain. All that keeping the motorcycle from falling, all the sidestepping, pushing it through the softest of horrible sands, it'll make you exert a lot of effort. And this is in deserts potentially, in the summer, under the scorching sun, and you're sweating profusely, and it tires fast and you get thirsty fast, but you don't have a lot of water. So if this is your first time hitting the off-road and on a heavy bike, it's not going to be the greatest thing. And if you fall with a heavy motorcycle off-road or on tarmac, you just have more potential to really damage the motorcycle. Also, I think there's a higher chance of sustaining injuries when you fall off a bigger motorcycle, because another big factor is riding position. Can you reach the ground with your feet, or do you have to tiptoe, or can you barely reach the ground at all? And how is that riding position? Is it nice, comfy, and upright, but maybe catching a lot of wind, or is it uncomfortably hunched over and not catching a lot of wind, but how are you going to keep that up? And last but not least, parts and maintenance. How easy is it to do mechanical work on your motorbike? A more complex motorcycle usually means more time spent tinkering away, or more money spent on someone who has to work on the bike. And what about parts and lubricants? Are they generic, pretty common, or are they a bit exotic? What are the chances of finding your wheelbarrows? You don't need wheelbarrows. For example, what are the chances of finding your wheel bearings at some local roadhouse somewhere? Or does your motorbike require special bearings that have been manually machined somewhere in the Austrian Alps? These are the main trade-offs, and you gotta figure out for yourself which ones are really important to you, but also where can you compromise? And I think that in many cases, you'll come to the conclusion that, you know what, I can ride on this for a while, this'll do. That you'll manage for most of the ride, and once you get to those tougher parts where your bike really isn't optimal, then you'll adapt. It won't be perfect, but it'll be alright. And I think you'll still manage to have a great experience. Forgive me, I'm really going to pull this one out of the cliche hat, because at the end of the day, you know, it really is about the journey. It really is about that riding experience. For sure, this is a massive cliche, but in this case, it's one because it's true, as is with most cliches, I think, actually, right? Realizing that dream or vision that you have, making that experience your own. I think what I'm really trying to get at in this video is that a lot of you out there are a lot closer to realizing that vision than you think. I think that more than a few of you could depart next week. Hell, I think some of you could depart tomorrow if you really wanted to. And then once you're out there gaining all these new experiences, getting in all that new riding experience, learning so many new things, your taste will evolve, your preferences will evolve, and you can always change your motorcycle once you're on the road. Maybe you get to the end of a continent and you go, I want a different bike, and you can do that. Or on your next trip, you'll get a motorbike that's more fitting to your newly developed needs. Hold up. Sounds like the ambulance is passing by. For example, when I started out, my attitude was, I just want to get the hell out of here. I want to get out there. I want to go. And that's what I did. In no time, I just went. And over the years, I found out that I really enjoy off-roading and that I really want to push it a bit harder when I'm doing that. So I modded my motorcycle to better handle that kind of riding. So you probably already have your golden ticket. And all that's left to do is to make it happen. So next time when you walk to your garage or parking spot or driveway and you're standing next to your baby, look at her and imagine all the awesome things that you are going to experience together. Hi folks, that was that. Enjoy the ride, less contemplating, more doing. Let us know in the comments if you got anything to add to this, and if you agree or don't agree with the things that I've just said. Subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a like on your way out. It's like a scorched earth here. Also, consider supporting the channel. If you like the videos that I've been making, or if you would like to see more of these, link is in the description. Alright folks, go ride, stay upright. Ciao.